Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast. I am really excited to nerd out on human design today, and I have Lily here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a huge pleasure for me.
Yeah, and where am I talking to you from right now?
I am from Bulgaria,
Bulgaria.
and this is in Europe, in the eastern parts of Europe.
Cool. So I'm so glad
Yeah.
we were able to make this work with our time zone differences and everything.
Yes, yes.
Thankful for social media and the internet today, for sure.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for Instagram and for all the social media out there because this gives me the opportunity to have clients all over the world, from the
Yes.
States, from everywhere.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so before we kind of get into human design, which we will talk about today, can you share a little bit about your backstory, what you do, any fun details you want to share about like who you are?
Well, as a third line in my human design, I'm someone that have tried and errored too many times. I describe myself as a phoenix because this is, for me, the pure representation of the third line, how you're born from your mistakes. Basically, my background is not so exciting. I graduated from finance in university. And after that, I was starting to look for a job. And then a manifestor came into my life and it did its purpose. So he pushed me to actually turn my passion into work because he was like looking at me, seeing how passionate I was about studying human design, but it was only a passion. And I never thought I can turn my passion into a real work. And he was a developer. He said, I'll help you do your website. He didn't actually do my website, but the fact that he said, I'll help you, it was the thing that I needed at that moment. It gave me the rush to do it. And it's all a story after that. I started doing my website, writing more, creating content for Instagram and for all other social medias as well. And yes, I have never lost my passion. It's getting even more day after day, and the more clients I meet, the more passionate I get. And yeah, I think it's my path.
Yeah. And I'll quick interrupt us for a sec. Are you
Yes,
able to move your hair from your microphone?
yes,
Just
yes.
here
I'm
a tiny
sorry.
bit. No, no, no. Okay. That's okay. That's awesome. Perfect.
Okay.
But yeah, it sounds like you totally found yourself in the right career then. The fact that your like passion is growing more every day, I think that's
Yes.
really beautiful to point out because I know, especially for myself personally, and I see this happen to a lot of other people, like we get into a job and it feels secure and we're like, can you even like what you do? Like, is that real? So
Yes,
you're living proof. I think I'm living proof. And so
of
thank you
course.
for sharing that too. And
Yes.
cool that you made that transition and that you're here now. And human design, let's get into it. Can you
Um,
give like a brief breakdown of like what is human design? Where did it come from?
Human design is basically a new system. It was created by Ra. This is the founder of the system. He got an encounter with a voice in 1987, I think. This continued for a week. Then he created that whole system, but it's not a new system. He just combined ancient and very old knowledges like astrology, like the I Ching, like the chakras, Kabbalah, the tree of life, also astronomy, genetics, biochemistry, and all of that he combined together and he developed the human design system. Ra brought also other people into the system because he couldn't distribute it on his own. And after that, not after that, but when he got the encounter and he did the book, the first book about human design, he started first in the States, then in Spain and in Germany, I think, to distribute it first. And after that, the students continued his work. And basically, this is the beginning of human design.
Yeah, I think the first time I started digging into it, I didn't know that there were so many aspects kind of pulled together. And I think that's really cool, but at the same time, when you first like look up your chart, right? When you go to, whatever website, there are so many resources out there to get your chart, and it's pretty overwhelming at first, right? Because it is a combination of so much into like
Mhm.
your personal, unique, individual design. So, if anyone has looked up their chart and they're a little bit overwhelmed, where would you recommend to start looking?
Uh, First, don't get too overwhelmed with the chart.
Yeah.
That's for the start. Don't
Yeah.
try to understand what everything means. Just see where it's written type, then see what's your type, and below the type, just see what strategy and authority it says. And that's your starting point. We have a thing in the human design community to say, just follow your strategy and authority and it all be fine. And that's true. Basically, you don't need to know much about human design as long as you know your strategy and your authority. That's it. That's the most basic foundation, and it's actually the only one you need.
Okay. That's super helpful.
Yes.
And energy type that you see on your chart too, that's kind of the like overarching main theme of human design, right? The five
Yes.
types. Would you
Yes.
be able to give like a brief breakdown of those five main energy types?
Yes, of course. And I would like to give an example of a business unit and explain what each type does in that business unit, because
Definitely.
it
Yeah.
will be more easy to understand. So let's say we have a business unit and we have all the five types there. So the manifester, as I described in the beginning, initiated me to do that. So the manifester is the one that initiates the process. He's the one that has a vision for building, for example, a new building. And he says, okay, I have a vision to build an extraordinary building. I see it that way. So we go and do it. And then and giving that force and being able to initiate that process, he just brings the energy into that direction. And there it's finished. The manifestor job is finished. He initiated the process
Yeah.
and that's all. He's not responsible to continue or to support that process as long as it's going and there are other people to support it. So after the initiation, there it comes the projector. So the projector is the one that is very smart. He has invested in his knowledge. He's the one that just sees how things has to be done. So the projector, allocates the resources, allocates how people will come together and how they will do their jobs, and basically what will be done in the best and most efficient way. So projectors are also people that really connect deeply with others and they understand what energy they carry. And that's why they're so good at allocating resources, at knowing who's good at what and who may do what. So they're very efficient people. They know how to manage energy. So that's their job, to allocate resources, to allocate people, and not be the people that actually do the job. They are the ones that tell how the job has to be done, but are not the ones doing it. So this is the projector's job. Then we go on with the generators and the manifesting generators. They are actually the most valuable people because without them, the project cannot be done. They bring the life force, they bring the energy. They're the ones that actually build on that building. Without them being there every day to support that project, it won't be able to go on and be finished. So yes, the generators really need to be passionate about their job. They have to be there every day to support it, to sustain it. And as much as it looks dull and not that interesting, they are really the most important people. They dominate the world. They're 70% of the population. And if we have really happy generators around us, we have everything. We have life force. We are filled. We fill the environment with positive energy. And lastly, we have reflectors. And their job is really interesting because reflectors are here to give us feedback about what they're sensing in the environment. So in that case scenario, reflectors are gonna be the people that just observe the process and give feedback if it's going well, what's missing, what's not missing, is there some misunderstandings, or if the process is going smooth, what can be done better. And basically this is the job of the reflector, just to be a mirror of the process and support it.
Amazing.
So this is how they work.
And then manifesting generators are like a mix of manifestors and generators, right?
Yes. And in their core, they are generators because they have the sacral center. They really need to be mindful of their sacral energy. This is the first resource they have to take into consideration. And because they have a manifesting channel there, they are a little bit quick. They're more fast than the pure generators. The pure generators go on with steady and slow steps, whereas the manifesting generator, they're more fast. They go on. They sometimes miss steps because I'm a manifesting generator as well, and sometimes I tend to miss steps because I'm so fast to go to the end result. But that's the thing, manifesting generators are like a tornado. They just go on so fast and they take other people around them with their aura when they are happy. So if you see a happy manifesting generator, be sure there are other people following it.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good point there. It's when I think of energy types, I think of, the more that you're kind of in alignment with that quote unquote role, like you described in the business, that's what allows you to be the most magnetic, right? And with things to just come to you and things feel easier and there's more flow. Is that kind of how you would describe like living within that role of your type?
Of course, of course. And we have to mention here authority as well, because your type is very important. But when you follow your authority, you really get in alignment with yourself. You really get in alignment with your trajectory, because the decisions you make in your life, they bring you into a certain direction. And that direction, if it's not in alignment with yourself, you will feel dull. You will feel like there's not happiness in your life in general. So that's why it's so important to follow your type and your authority together.
And so, what are some things people should know about the different authorities then?
So the most basic authority is the emotional authority. 50% of the population has it. So for emotional people, they need to wait. They need to wait their wave. And sometimes it will be very hard to wait until that wave has cooled down a little bit, because when you are in the peak and in the excitement and the joy of a decision, you may want to be very fast and make that decision as fast as possible. But when you are able to wait until your wave is a little bit more down, you have went through a lot of ups and downs, you can look back and see the reality and see the real picture there, you will be able to make the best decision. And in general, almost all the types have to wait before making a decision. For example, generators, they have to wait for that inner response of yes and no when someone asks them a question. Or a projector has to wait in order to receive an invitation. And basically almost all the types, unless except only one, which is manifestors, who are without an emotional authority. Those are the only ones that don't need to wait before making a decision or deciding where to go and what to do.
Yeah, that's a tough point, I think, to swallow because
Yes.
we're so in this society of like, I want it now, I want to do it now, I want to see the end result yesterday. So,
Yes.
like, thank you for emphasizing that. It's like almost everyone should
Yes.
practice patience a little bit more and just be like, okay, I'm on this high right now, but let me just enjoy it. Let me just soak it in. And I'm going to like let it come down naturally. And then I'm going to decide what to do next. Is that kind of on the right track?
Yes, of course. You're so on point here. We all need to practice a little bit more mindfulness and being present in the moment.
It's so hard.
And yes, yes, I know, I know.
So you
And
said
yes,
most people are the emotional authority, right?
yes, yes.
Okay. What would like the next highest group be?
So the next highest group would be sacral and spleen. I'm
Okay.
not sure which one is dominating here, but sacral authority is for only for generators. As I mentioned, they need to wait for their inner sacral to say yes. And this is the excitement you get and that urge to move your body when someone asks you, do you want to do something? And you're like, yes, I really want to do it. And if you're like, I don't know, probably this is for sure no, or at least no for the current moment, because your body knows that you don't have energy right now for that. And when your sacral says yes, this means you have energy. This means this trajectory is right for you. When you go there, you will meet the correct people, you will do the correct things. Even though sometimes they may not be that pleasant, it's an experience you were looking for. So listen to your sacral and to your gut if you are a generator. Even though sometimes generators may have emotional authority, they still need to consider their sacral and what the sacral responses to.
Okay.
And the spleen authority is, I would say, easy, but until you get to the point to understand it, it could be sometimes very hard because the spleen authority speaks only once. And it's a very deep body instinct. You feel it in your whole body. You feel your whole body telling you, yes, this is correct for me, or no, this is not correct for me. But if you miss that moment when your body speaks, you won't know what to do. So for example, if you were asked a question and you have a splenic authority and you don't know what exactly you felt in that moment, try to remember how you felt. Try to remember the situation. Try to see what happened in that moment. Try to be more mindful of how your body reacted to that question. And this is how you can really understand, not with your mind, not with your logic, not with thinking what's good and what's not, but rather connecting with your body again.
Yeah, and I think that's another theme of human design kind of overall. It's don't stress out in your head about what's
Yeah.
going on. Take that energy, move it into your body, and connect more with your intuition, which is another thing that I think a lot of us lose touch with in kind of today's society. We like quick thinking, we like to get lost in our thoughts in our head, get stuck on our to-do list, you know, a lot of thinking. But a big theme of human design that I've picked up on is get back into your body. What is your body really asking for? How is your body responding to different situations? I was even talking to one of my clients the other day who said she like paused in the middle of some stress eating. Like she realized she wasn't even hungry, but was just reaching for food. And I was like, well, what did it feel like in your body during that time? Not what were you stressed out about, but like, what was your body really trying to tell you? You know, where were you feeling that heaviness and that stress in your physical body? And I think that sometimes is a big missing key that a lot of us don't even stop to observe and connect with, that can tell us everything we need to know so we don't have to stress out as much in our head, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And the thing that you're mentioning is exactly what human design describes, because we have two parts in us: the personality, which is the things we are aware of, and the design, which is our body, and we are not aware of the body entirely. So we have to combine the two together, the personality and the design. And when we combine them, we can be in alignment with ourselves. So it's very important to really, really understand our body and what it tells us. And that's the only way we can be really in alignment with everything. And that's the key thing also about diets, because if you're not in alignment with yourself and with your body, no matter what kind of diet you do, it could be the best one, but if you don't know what your body is telling you, you won't lose weight, you won't have a fast metabolism. And I've been there, I know what I say. I really was totally misunderstanding my body signals. I was stuck in a toxic situation. I knew I had to go, but I didn't have the courage to do it. And I've been stuck there for years, suffering from so many digestive issues. And I was trying everything. I tried every possible diet I knew at the time. And the only thing I had to do was to remove myself from that situation. And within a week, all my problems that I was trying to solve for years were gone. And I was like, really?
That's
How is
crazy.
that even possible? I started eating what I wanted to eat and I was losing weight, which was
Yeah.
crazy. My stomach was always looking like I was in the fifth, like in the second trimester of a pregnancy. And I was like, why is my stomach so swollen? And this was gone after I removed myself from that situation and I listened to my body and what it was saying to me.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very, very important to know.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for sharing that practical example. And I cannot count how many times that I think not in so many words, but clients will tell me, hey, I had a really like de-stressed week. Like I took some time to relax, or I went camping and connected with nature, or whatever it may be. And they're like, I've never felt so like healthy, fit, lean. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's because you took some time for yourself. You didn't stress out about the diet or what you should or shouldn't be, how hard you should be working in the gym, for example, and you gave yourself that break, which I think naturally when we do that, we start moving towards our design and how we're quote unquote our like soul wants to live, right?
Exactly. And it's very interesting. I want to hear your example as well, because you are a projector, someone that must really be mindful of how you use your energy, and you are a mental projector. So your only definition is in your agenda and in your head. And your decision has to be made only based on the right environment you're in. So how that happens for you?
I have no idea. No, I'm still trying to figure that out because I'm pretty new to human design. And the more I learn, the more I'm like, I have never, until the past, couple months that I've gotten into human design, I have never lived like a projector. Like I was definitely
Really?
living as like probably a generator. It would be how to describe it. Like work harder, do more, work longer hours, achieve more, set those higher goals. And it's only very recently that I've been trying to reevaluate and be like, you know what if I don't have to work 50 hours to call myself productive? What if I don't have to, restrict my food and be just like 110% dialed in all the time? But what if I took a step back from tracking macros, for example, and let my body tell me, what it wants to eat? And it has been really very difficult, and I have not totally figured it out yet. But I think just giving myself the permission to take a step back and to notice my environment, like you said, and to cultivate more of an environment that's helping me feel relaxed and in flow has been really helpful. But it's going to be a work in progress for a while, I think, because I'm unlearning like 29 years of not acting in alignment with my energy type.
You mentioned so many things that are in your design, the conditioning your sacral that needs to work and doesn't know where its limits are, the root which is always in pressure to do things.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have an active environment, which means that if you're in the right environment, you will feel active. Do you feel like that?
I am definitely sensitive to that now that I pay attention.
Okay.
Like if I need to create something, like create content or work on a course that I want to put out, I have to be somewhere different. Like I either have to be in nature or I have to be at a fun coffee shop with like plants around me and stuff. Otherwise,
Okay.
like if I just come to, my office or if I'm trying to work at like the kitchen table, it's like no. It will not happen. It will not flow.
That's because you are with an active environment. And when you are in an active environment, your body gets active. And not only because you're a projector and you take all that energy that's around you, but also because of that. And it's good that you have discovered that, because when you are alone, you just don't have that conditioning. And conditioning is not always bad. If you are conditioned from people that are not good for you, then it won't be serving you. But if you're conditioned from satisfied generators, it will be good because you will feel their energy and you will multiply it even, and you can do your job then.
Yeah.
But
And
also yes,
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just recently saw a research that was saying that projectors, and especially if they don't have emotional definition, have to work maximum of 4 hours a day, and that's it. If they work more, they will be burned out at some point for
I
sure.
I have heard that too. My business mentor has told me that because she's
Yes.
into astrology and human design, and I was like, never in my life have I had a 4 hour workday. Like, what the hell? And she's like, you got to start undoing like those negative pieces of conditioning that tell you, because in my head I'm like, that's lazy. If I work 4 hours a day, I am a piece of shit, right? But I'm definitely, that's going to take me a long time to kind of undo and to figure out how I can do that. Because if I look at the last, 10 years of my life when I've really gotten into fitness, I can see like push, burnout, push, burnout, push, burnout. Like I could map it out for you on a calendar so clearly like that. And now that I have that clear hindsight, I'm like, that's because I was constantly trying to do more. I would never in my younger years like give myself a day off or only work a half day or something like that. So that's definitely conditioning that I'm working on unlearning, and I really want to get into those, what those undefined and defined centers mean too. But did we go through all the authorities? Did we touch on all those?
No, we didn't go through all the authorities. There are a lot of authorities, for example. Then we have a self-projected authority, which means that the only definition there is, it's from the G center above. So no ego, just from the G to the throat. This means that those people have to speak, because when they speak and they express their G from the throat, they would be able to hear, and while they're speaking, they can make the right decision and really understand what's their right path to take on. So yes, if you have a G authority, this means that you have to be open to speak about everything that's concerning you.
Yeah.
And the other authority that it's before the G authority is when you have only ego to throat and nothing that's below that. So the ego is the only center that's defined, and we have only definition above the ego. I don't know how to explain it without a picture, but I hope people understand it. So when you have an ego authority, you have to do things for yourself that are valuable, that bring you value. Because if the things that you do are not for you and they don't bring you value, you won't have that motivation and that energy to do it. So the ego really sustain energy. You take in energy in the ego and you release it only when you really see there is value there and you have promised to do that and you want to do it. And that's how this authority works.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that overview. That's
Yes,
so
yes.
helpful.
And in general, when you have a definition to the throat, even from emotions to the throat, ego to the throat, G to the throat, speaking helps, really helps. When you are able to speak about it and talk about it, even if it's emotions. When you speak about your emotions, you understand them better. You are able to see things more clearly, because when they are in your head, you are not able to really see them from a bigger perspective, so to say.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people can relate to that. Like sometimes I think of these are the people who you just need to talk something out. Like you don't
Yeah,
necessarily want someone's advice, but you need to like
exactly.
speak it to be able to process.
Of course, of course, of course. When I say speak it out, I mean not to get a response back or an advice back, but just to hear your words out. That's it. You can even speak to yourself sometimes.
Right? Yeah.
Or you can write it down, because when you write things down, it's also a little bit like you take it out, you manifest it out into the world. So the
Yeah.
the throat is the manifesting center. It manifests your words.
Yeah. So journaling could be great for those
Yes,
people
yes,
too.
yes, yes.
And then we talked a little bit on conditioning. So I want to get into kind of the defined versus undefined centers.
Okay.
So I think that's another main thing that people notice when they pull up their chart. They're like, well, some are colored in, some are empty or white or blank. What does that mean?
Okay. First, before going into definitions and openness, I want to say something that people tend to bring to me often is, okay, I have a defined ego, for example, but I don't feel like I have that power in me. I'm not like so self-confident, or I don't feel like I have willpower or whatever. I mean, they don't associate themselves with their definitions. And that's because you first have to decondition the open centers to learn the things in the open centers, to work on that conditioning. And after you have worked you worked on the conditioning in the open centers, you can really understand your definitions, and they will manifest without you doing anything. You will be your definitions when you decondition the open centers. So first we have to speak about the open centers and the conditioning in them. So the first center that gets the most conditioning is the ego center. So the ego center is about proving yourself. You mentioned you feel like nothing if you don't work. That's that's a theme that could be in the sacral and as well as the ego center, because doing things which are outside of you, meaning working, uh, dressing appropriately, looking in a certain way, those are all outside things that you do in order to receive validation. And this is the theme that has to be deconditioned in the open ego center, to not try to get validation from the people in your life. Give it to yourself, but don't seek it from them. And also the other thing that deconditions the ego when it's open is to learn to say no and set boundaries. Do not try to please everyone and always be available, always saying yes to others because you think they will value you more when you are always there for them. It's exactly vice versa. When you learn to say no, people value you more because they know you have valuable energy and you don't waste it to everyone. That's why they then want to be around you more. And yes, the ego is very, very hard to learn, especially nowadays, having all those things brought to us by social media, by images. And yeah, people sometimes think that their value is somewhere out into the world, but it's actually in them. They have to feel valuable inside of them. They have to do things about themselves because they feel good, not because they want to please someone.
Mm-hmm.
They could go and have, they can do a diet or go do sports, but they have to do it because they feel good, they feel healthy, and not because they want to sustain a certain image for the society, for example.
Yeah, I think that's really important to point out because I have never worked with a client who has seen awesome results from a place of like, I have to do this, I should do this, this is what's expected to me, like I'm punishing my body. That never, ever, ever brings the results that you want. But I think ego, yeah, that's a really hard piece to decondition. And I guess to take a step back and just talk about conditioning for a second too, it's how I think of it as anything we take on from what we consume, whether that is food, media, the people we're around, the spaces we're around, going back all the way to childhood, right? Like I know some teachers who say that most of our conditioning is developed before the age of 7. Like that's crazy. So really taking the time to just hammer into what is really true to you, not what is true to everyone else. And that's where I think looking at your chart can be helpful, to just be aware of, okay, I'm really open to conditioning from society or ideas being impressed upon me that aren't necessarily mine in all of these areas that are white or that are blank on my chart. And I guess maybe at first I saw that as a scary thing because my chart is like almost entirely undefined. But now I think as I learn more, I use it as information to be like, maybe I should dig deeper on this. Like, this isn't really making me happy. Like, why not? What's behind that? Was that even my idea? Was that even my own standard I set? Or was this from potentially a negative or a harmful experience of my past that I'm just hanging on to?
Exactly. And it's so important to look back into those first 7 years, because 70% of what we do right now is just a repetition of those first 7 years. Because we work in cycles of 7, we just repeat the previous 7 years, and then in the next we repeat yes. And when we look what our parents taught us, then we will be aware of the most conditioning we got. So I think you have went through that, and you have thought about that conditioning.
Yeah. I am kind of embarrassed to say this, but a lot of times when I think back on like, oh, I have this weird like fear, like why do I even have that? A lot of times it has come back to like a show or a movie, like that I watched when I was younger or that I was exposed to when I was younger. And I'm like, that's kind of terrifying that I'm able to pinpoint some things into like, because I saw it one time when I was younger.
Wow.
And it just like, I think especially this is important when it comes to health and fitness and setting goals, especially if they're physique goals. Why are you setting them? Which is my clients probably rolling their eyes, who I've asked this to more than once, but it's like, well, why do you actually, okay, you say you want to get, totally shredded. You want that 6-pack, but why? Like, is that because you saw someone else getting acknowledgement and you're really seeking that same acknowledgement? Do you think that's actually going to make you happy? Just digging deeper onto that, like, what is your own definition of health or wellness or fitness, and how can you live out your own definition versus some woman who got a bunch of likes on a bikini photo on Instagram,
Yes, and you have no idea how much my sacral got excited while you were speaking those words, because I was like, yes, I do abs right now because it gives me so much energy. You have no idea. I do abs only because it gives me energy, because that's the part where my sacral is. And I used to do exercises for my abs because I wanted that. I wanted to be hot in a bikini, but right now I don't do it because of that. And I do it only because when I make the exercise for my belly, and then I feel so much more in tune. I feel energetic. I get energy. I'm more confident. But it's not about how I look, it's how I feel. And I really got excited while you were saying that, because it's exactly how I feel.
I love that. Yeah. And what are some other like key points that people can take from their human design to use with their diet, fitness, health?
Okay, there are a lot of things, but when
Right.
we are when we are on the subject of exercises, for example, for people that are with a defined root center, it's very good for them to move their lower body, to, for example, their legs, to do squats or to go on walks, or when they wake up to do exercises that move their legs. Even when they do squats, they can even walk in a squat. I don't know how this is called.
Lunges,
Uh,
probably.
yes, I think something like
Yeah.
that. Uh, and when they do those things, their entire body will be charged, because from the root you get the energy in your entire body, because if there is a block in the root, you don't have energy in your entire body. So that would be very important for them. And also, it's important to know what's your environment. As I mentioned, your environment is active. So this is the arrow that's on the left side, the lower arrow. So if it points to the left, this means that you have an active environment. So you will be more active if you are in the right environment. I like to say active body, because you get active when you are in the right environment. And for those people to do exercises that are a little bit more cardio, or exercises that get them more active, exercises always get you active, but those exercises that are more intense, they make your heartbeat goes faster. These things will be good for them. And if the arrow points to the right, this means that your environment is passive. This is my environment. And for those people, it will be good to choose that environment that brings them that kind of peace and calmness, and exercise, and to do exercises that are more like stretching, not so much cardio, exercises that don't make their heartbeat goes fast. And when I was younger, I used to do a lot of cardio and I was passing out so much. I don't even have a route defined, so it was a lot of pressure on me. And this was in the period where I was doing all the diets, I was doing all the exercises, I was trying everything possible, and I was exhausting so much my body. And I was wondering why it didn't work well. So yes, right now more chill exercises that just bring me tone and not
Yeah.
drainness.
And I've also read that if you have a lot of open centers like
Yeah.
myself, it
Yes,
can be, since you are kind of sensitive to what's around you, the people around you, the energies around you, that you can kind of use that to your advantage depending on where you work out, right? So like,
exactly.
which I have totally seen this but just didn't realize I was doing it. Like if I work out at home, it's much calmer, right? Because I'm working out by myself in my home gym and I
Exactly.
can just go at my own pace. If I'm like, okay, I really kind of, my body's asking me to like push harder today and take this workout up a notch, that's the days that I'll go to the gym, because I'm around all these other intense energies that it makes me work a lot harder and push myself harder and maybe like go for a PR or something like that. Um, so that's a tip that I've felt works really well for me with having a lot of open centers and using that to my advantage with my fitness.
Of course, yes, that's very smart of you. And also, you have a collective channel as well as an individual channel. And the collective channels, um, I saw that people that have more collective energy in them train better in a collective groups where there are more people. So because of your collective channel, probably you feel better in a group and where there are people. Also, you have an individual channel that works in an individual way, that you decide how you want to work. One day it's perfect work to work out alone. Another day you will want to be with people.
Yeah.
And also, if you have a tribal channels, I have tribal channels, actually one tribal channel, but I like to work out with a buddy. If I'm not with a friend, I wouldn't go to the gym, because I don't know, I don't know what I will do there. I don't have collective channels in me, only individual and one tribal.
And those channels, those are when you have like the defined lines between,
Yes,
right? So if
yes.
people want to look those up, it's like if you have I can't even remember some of mine off the top of my head, but if you have like the two numbers that are connected by a solid line, that's a channel, and you can research that on your own because there are like a million, right?
Yes, yes, you have 6124, which is the channel that I also have. This is the channel of a thinker. So you may think a lot of things through. So,
Yeah.
and also the other channel that you have is very, again, in the head, thinking about the past, digging into books, digging into what has happened, researching, and all things connected with studying. So probably that's why you're so into
Yeah.
those things.
I know. I'm like, I always need another certification. And then I'm like, chill
Yes,
out. Just relax with it.
yes. And as we spoke about the ego, searching for certification may be a shadow in the ego, because you have to go and study because you like it and you want it, not because of the certification or the approval you will get from the people after you get it. So that's a thing to consider here.
Thank you for that reminder. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are there any other things that people like top things people really need to look for in their chart? Or do you think we got the main ones with the type and the authority?
Oh, I want to say so many things there, but I don't
I
want to
know.
confuse them. It's so many things they can look up to, but I would suggest to begin with the type and the strategy and authority. Then, after they have covered that, to go on with the open centers, only the open centers, not the defined ones, not the channels, the open centers and the deconditioning they have to do there. And after that, they can go on to there's defined centers, the channels there. Then they can consider the profile, because the profile is also important for their role in the society. And I can continue, but I don't
I
want
know,
to
I
make it
know.
more complicated.
Right. There are a lot of pieces of it, but you can kind of make it as simple or as complex if you want. You know, like even I
Yes,
think knowing your energy type and knowing what helps you like step into that more versus what is kind of the opposite. Just that alone, I think when I realized that and started noticing it more, I was like, whoa, there's a different way
yes,
of doing things that makes me a lot happier and makes everything feel easier. So,
yes.
and that's keeping it pretty dang simple, like just looking at your energy type. Or if you want to nerd out, yeah, like buy books and there are courses and all kinds of things, right?
Yes, yes, yes. There's so many courses that there's so many nice teachers out there. I love almost all of them because they have unique styles. Everyone get its own way of doing things. Everyone put his own interpretation there. And the good thing about human design, and I think this is the thing that attracted me most to human design, is the experimentation part, because everything that human design gives, it's just a prescription. You don't have to take it all in. You are advised to always try it first, see how it works for you, and then continue implementing it, and not take it just like it's the holy grail.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not supposed to be more rules. It's more about
Yes.
playing with it and experimenting. And I think that kind of goes back to I feel like I'm seeing a lot of shifts in our society and kind of where energies are going. And I think human design is just going to become more and more popular because of that. But it's, you know, shifting away from it has to be this way and this is the one way to do it and this is the correct system. You can let go of that. Like that 100% is conditioning from our very like masculine history of patriarchy in the society, and just allow
Yes.
yourself to experiment and play. And this definitely carries over into nutrition and fitness. Like there is no one right way to eat or work out.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
coming back into your body and
Yes.
checking on really what do you need that day. Don't let the scale tell you what you
Exactly.
need. Don't let the like fit magazine tell you what you need, but just like take a second to check in with yourself and like what do I as an individual need today, right?
Exactly, exactly. And the other thing that I forgot to mention, and I think it would be important for your listeners, would be that some people are, this is about the arrows again. On the left side, the upper arrow, if it's pointing to the left, it means you have an active metabolism. And if it's pointing to the right, it means that you have more passive metabolism. And for those with a right arrow, fasting is more advisable. And for those with a left arrow, eating more frequent meals, more small and frequent meals would be better. So, as you said, trusting your body will always be the best thing, and your body will always show you the right things. And for me, I was pushing myself so hard to do fasting and to because I wanted to lose weight, and I thought this is the way to do it. And my body was so much suffering at that point, and I wasn't losing weight because my body was just active and I needed frequent meals, and that was it. And I see my mother, which is with a passive metabolism, and she's so good with fasting, and it's so natural for her, and she doesn't even need food so often, and she can have only one big meal and a smaller ones during the day, and she's completely fine and okay. And this depends on the body as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, a good thing to experiment with. It doesn't have to be
Of
0 to
course.
100. You could do
Yes, of
like
course.
a short fasting window or like a
Yes,
24-hour fast once a month, right? There are like
of
tons of
course.
options in between.
Of course, of course. It can be a small window, a large window, a whole day,
Right. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. So
Yes.
cool. Oh my gosh. I know we could talk about human design forever,
Yes,
but
yes,
I want to respect your time and I appreciate
of
all of your
course.
knowledge and insights here. Where can people find you if they want to learn more, if they want to ask a follow-up question? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
For now, the only way they can reach up to me is through Instagram. In my profile, there is for human design. I am currently doing my website, and I hope it will be done in a week or two, and they can find me there. It would be forhumandesign.com, but it's not ready yet. I'm doing that website for like
Hopefully,
two
I
and a
bet
half years.
it'll be
Yes.
ready when this episode comes out. We're sending you those
I've,
good vibes.
oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Cool. Well, thank you again so much for
Yes.
being here. And if you guys like this episode, be sure to share it with friends, share it on your story, and tag both of us. And we would love to share the love back with you. So thanks again, Lily, for being here. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Do you feel energized and refreshed now? I hope this episode gave you a little boost to get out there and start manifesting your fittest, healthiest life. If you loved it, please help me out by writing a review and sharing this episode to your story. And seriously, just thank you so much for being here. For daily updates of what I've got going on and to connect further, be sure to follow me on Instagram and head over to ccowellness.com to learn more about my one-on-one coaching and find additional resources there, including my Goddess's Guide to Macros ebook, plus a few freebies. And remember, you are strong, you are capable of achieving anything you desire, and you are worthy of all your wildest dreams.